Welcome to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles, along with my co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. So we have a very special guest today, Tatum Crews. She's the CEO of Covery Wellness Spa. The Covery is a destination for immersive wellness. The mission is to keep members and communities healthy and productive through a wide variety of services for the mind and the body. More than ever, immunity and mental health are the key factors for a healthy lifestyle. In the Covery, they help us understand and formulate a plan to best boost our feelings of well-being and overall health. The Covery believes that business and everyday life is a sport, and treating yourself to recovery is essential because a healthy and rested mind and body will not only keep you in the game, it will keep you in the lead. And no one knows that better than Tatum Crews, a results-oriented operations professional who has 15 plus years of experience in leading key growth initiatives in retail, health and wellness, and marketing industries. Tatum, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Rebecca and Tracy. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on the Women's Franchise podcast.
We're happy you're here.
Tatum, you have such a nice career span. I'd really like to hear how you got into franchise in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rebecca mentioned, but I do have a background in marketing, and I worked with a marketing firm for a couple of years prior to entering the franchise world. My franchise experience started with Orange Theory Fitness over about 10 years ago. I started working with them honestly as a standard, sales associate employee, and I worked my way up through the ladder from being a GM to a regional manager to director of employee development, helped open multiple locations from a pre-sales aspect. And then I made a couple connections throughout my career with Orange Theory, which led me to assisting with opening and operating Regimen Fitness, which is also a franchise concept. And so after working with Regimen for roughly 6 years and creating their operational process and their marketing plans and assisting with some of the sales for those locations, COVID happened. And when COVID happened, I sat around with the ownership team and we decided that there needed to be a recovery concept. And so after working very closely with the chief visionary officer, Edward Navin, we threw a lot of spaghetti at the wall, and eventually we found a concept that stuck and that was profitable, and we felt like we could franchise it. And so we started franchising February of 2022 and officially have sold 82 locations since then. So we're seeing a tremendous amount of growth in such a short period of time for us to do all of that internally through our franchise development department. Recently, I accepted the position of the CEO role in January of this past year. So I guess about 10 months ago now, and it's been an exciting, adventure since then, working on the infrastructure for the company and continuing to grow and develop as we evolve our brand.
I like that you've had this vast experience of helping two other brands grow, Orange Theory, which is massive now, and in different roles. So you got a good feel of what franchising is, what franchisees go through from all perspectives. I'm really fascinated, Tatum, with this idea of recovery and the mental, emotional component of that you guys have focused on. Can you address why the body-mind piece, the mental as well as the physical, is so important?
Absolutely. A lot of that ties to every day, whether you're a male or a female, you go through different trials and challenges and things that you have to focus on in life. And a lot of times I don't think we realize how much mental stress we're carrying. And so when it comes to the mental and the health component of everything, the way that we have our modalities packaged for our brand, it alleviates a lot of that. We do guided meditation, which is a soft light over your eyes, a nice sound noise in your ears. We do everything from cryotherapy to cold plunge, which is going to assist with any type of inflammatory disease. We have different therapies that are great for gut health. We have different therapies such as PEMF, which is great for bone health, IV, which is great for hydration. And so there's so many different therapies and combos that we offer to really plug and play those and ensure that we're creating a platform and an environment for consumers and moms and dads and husbands and wives and so forth and so on to come in and feel comfortable and know that they're taking care of themselves, so that longevity is a key to success over time. They can continue to grow old with their grandkids and, continue to do things from an active standpoint that they may or may not have been able to do in the past, considering some of the stress or, other ailments that they may be experiencing as we continue to grow in age.
I love the integration of all of this,
Mhm.
the mind, the body. I'm curious, as you were growing up, who were some of your role models?
No, that's a great question, Tracy. I guess to be vulnerable for a minute, my dad raised me. I don't necessarily have a relationship with my biological mother. I am very fortunate and grateful to have a mom that has helped my dad raise me for many, many years. She's one of my best friends. But still going through life and growing up and trying to focus on being a professional and being a mother myself, there's so many challenges that are underlying that you don't tend to talk about on a regular basis. And so in a nutshell, I'm very fortunate for the family atmosphere that I have. My husband, my kids, my father, my mother, my brother, we all stay very, very close. And I'm very fortunate for the tools that they have given me to help me mold me into the person that I am today.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
you are definitely blessed for sure. Family becomes, like you said, a foundation of what we build our lives by. And even though you weren't able to be part of your biological mother's life and vice versa, right? You made the best of what you had, which is a phenomenal stepmother, a wonderful brother, and a dad that did exactly what dad should do, which is raise beautiful, confident woman, right? And that's
Yeah.
what he accomplished with you. So I'm curious also of that going from that to where you are very young, you're a CEO of an incredibly fast growing franchise organization that's making a difference in a lot of people's lives. So when you look at that, what do you think made you go on that trajectory? I mean, is there some kind of theme, some kind of a motto, some kind of a thing inside that motivates you to keep growing like this?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, I've always been the type of person who stands by the motto of work for the job you want, not the job you have. And, I've worked with a bunch of people in my life and had a bunch of experiences, some good, some bad. But there's one defining moment that I would say throughout my career where I was, sitting at a table, being the only female at that round table. And I had an individual look at me and he said at that time, I was probably 25 or 26. And he said, "You're going to be a CEO one day." And when he said that to me, I thought at that point, like, this isn't just my dad who's telling me like, hey, you can do anything you want in life. This is a colleague, somebody who understands where I stand from a professional standpoint, who believed in me. And I knew at that point it was like head down. I had to do everything in my power to continue to challenge myself, to continue to educate myself. And that's where a lot of these classes, kind of come from that I've taken that are on my resume and stuff like that, as I continue to grow as a person.
I love that. Like, because it's easy for our parents to say, oh, you're great. And, you can do this and that. But that feeling when somebody outside of someone who actually knows you well and loves you is saying it because they recognize something in you. What do you think it was that he actually recognized in you in that moment?
I would say in that moment, I'm honest to a fault. And if I believe in something, I believe in it for a reason. And I tend to be very confident in the way I communicate those line items, if you will. And so, looking back at that moment, I think he was probably a little impressed at how forthcoming I was and how adamant I was about the direction I wanted to take that particular process or operation or business. And I wasn't just sitting there like, fine, do whatever you guys want, I'll just get the work done. I had a voice and I wanted to make sure that it was heard.
It was almost prophetic, wasn't it? He spoke the future to you, and he saw something in you that, yeah, dad and your mom saw, but it's different when you hear it from a peer or someone that may be a few steps ahead of you. So it was almost prophetic when you think about it. To me, that's just unbelievably amazing. And then your willingness to learn and push and grow and do whatever you needed to do to get there. So, you know, I love this idea of continual growth. Would you consider this combination of your straightforward and you love a good challenge as part of the recipe for your success?
Absolutely, I would. I mean, I think it's spot on. And to not say that I'm the type of person who's never content, but I always want more out of life. And I know that, if I put my mind to it, I can achieve it. And it kind of goes into not to segue the conversation, but it goes into the fact that not only am I the CEO of the Covery Wellness Spa and I'm focused on a franchisor level and supporting our franchisees, but I've recently signed a lease for my own location and I'm putting on that franchisee hat, which kind of takes me back to my initial point of always loving a challenge. Do I necessarily have time to do all of this? Probably not. But am I going to make the time to ensure that I'm successful and I'm walking the same walk that I'm preaching to our franchisees and I'm experiencing all of those things from a franchisee standpoint now, not only from a franchisor standpoint? Absolutely. I'm the type of person, you don't know what you don't know, and I have tons of experience, but getting in the weeds and being boots on the ground is the next phase of my career, if you will, to continue to help grow this brand.
I love that. I love that you do have the experience at all different levels. And of course, that you're stepping into your own business ownership as well. Um, I have a couple of questions for you, just really quick. The first is, I noticed that on your LinkedIn profile, you had United Way listed and you spent, I think it was about 4 months in a executive leadership role there. I'm curious what your biggest takeaway was from working in that type of environment.
I would say my biggest takeaway from that position is you don't realize how many people are dealt a different hand of cards than you, right? And so being involved in a nonprofit and seeing some of these incredible programs that are also nonprofits that we have out in our community, whether that's to help young kids or to help the homeless or to feed people, It honestly, it's absolutely amazing that people take the time out of their everyday life. And a lot of them are volunteers, you know, a lot of them do not even get paid to ensure that they're constantly helping the community. They're helping people be better. They're helping people continue to move the needle, whether that's getting a job or just honestly, like being a supportive figure in someone's life that may not have parents around to guide them in the direction they want to go. And so, you know, being able to complete that internship and help raise money in the community at a young age, it was very eye-opening for me to be, you know, in the weeds with everybody, to not only assist but also to help United Way grow and continue to raise money and do tons of public speaking and just get out in the community and be more involved.
Fabulous.
It's kind of consistent with who you are when I think about it, right? Which is you were dealt a certain, you know, amount of cards in your hands and you played them well. And so the same is true of others. They're dealt a certain, you know, kind of cards and we can play them well or we can go, oh, poor me. And in your case, you've learned that sometimes people need a hand up and put them on the right track and show them that a future can be different. And then you did the same thing with yourself of this is what I was dealt. I'm going to deal with it and I'm going to see the future. You know, I want to backtrack just a little bit because I'm a behavioral scientist, so I'm always looking at research and what makes people successful, obviously. And you were talking about someone believing in you. There was some research a number of years back. I think they called it the blooming assessment. And basically, it was a psychologist who went into the classroom and assessed certain students. And he said he could predict those that were going to become geniuses over their lifetime, that he could predict it. And so he gave this assessment to, I don't remember if it was third grade or, but a certain age group. And then he would tell the teachers, okay, these students have the potential to be geniuses. And the reality is when they retested them at the end of that period of I believe it was a year, their IQ went up by 27 points. Now, if you think of it, our IQ is around 100 as an average. So that is a 30%, almost a 30% increase in IQ. And this is simply because a teacher believed this child was a genius and treated them differently, and it took them to another level. So I just wanted to backtrack and tell you the power, it gives me chills when I think about it, of what that gentleman did for you, Tatum, by saying you are going to be a CEO. That was a powerful thing that lit a flame in you that we are now seeing huge ripple effect of people going into business and helping others get healthy and have a strong sense of wellness, right? So I'm just excited. Sorry, I had to backtrack and just kind of.
No, I love hearing the data. So it's incredible.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're doing similar with your team to see to it that they too can step up and your franchisees. So, talk to us about the future. What does the future look like for you? Where are you heading? I know we're going to be a franchisee, but are we going to take over the world? What are we going to do?
Of course, I'm going to take over the world. No, no, that's a great question, Rebecca. You know, obviously, one of my primary focuses right now is to continue to grow the Covery. You know, I want the brand to continue to explode and blow up, and for us to be able, you know, to help more people in the community with their mental and physical wellness, coming into our spas on a regular basis. From a personal standpoint, my hope is that I don't stop at one franchise location. I'd like to continue to develop more on my own, you know, over the next couple of years within the local community, to just spread the wellness with everyone. And then something that's kind of bucket listed for me, which I haven't had the time to tackle right now, but I want to write a book eventually. And so that's a personal goal of mine that I'm going to make time for once I get my franchise open so I can share my story and how I got to where I am, with multiple other people.
That's awesome. I think that'll be so inspirational to so many people.
Mm.
Now, you mentioned something a little bit earlier where you were saying that you had a whole host of positive experiences and that you also had negative experiences. So I was wondering if you could possibly share one of those negative experiences, maybe what the obstacle was, how you overcame it, what the takeaway was, what you could share from that.
Yeah, so in my career, I've been in multiple situations where it's been alluded to that, like, oh, you can't do that, whether it was my age, whether it was my gender, what have you. I don't really know why their perception was the way that it was, frankly. But those are the kind of things that continue to motivate me because it's like can't, never could, right? So I'm going to continue to move full force and eventually prove you wrong. So that has happened a handful of times over my career. But as far as other negative experiences is, I'm a firm believer of taking care of your team. And I have been in a position where I wasn't the man or the woman in charge. And I was more boots on the ground. And frankly, I don't feel like, and it wasn't just me. I feel like it was my peers and colleagues as well, but we weren't taken care of. I feel like, my leaders at that point in time didn't care about who I was or how much time I was spending with my family versus at the office or at a studio. It was more about what put more money in their pocket. And I think that demoralizes people as time goes on, and it creates resentment. And in turn, it makes you not want to, meet the bottom line for those individuals anymore. And so when you have a paycheck coming in and you're, trying to figure out how do I get myself out of this situation, it takes a really strong minded and strong willed individual to remove yourself from those situations and say, you know what, this isn't good for my mental health. This isn't good for my career growth. What is plan B? And I feel like that's always kind of been one of my strong suits is how do I get myself out of these situations so that way it doesn't hinder me or negatively impact me future forward.
It almost, at that point, you almost can't take it personally, or at least you're not taking it personally. This is just their management style or leadership style, and it's not bringing out the best in others, and it doesn't make others feel valued. So instead of taking it personally, hey, if you don't see potential in me, hey, if you don't care about my work-life balance, then I guess it's time for me to kind of go another direction. So you didn't even take it personally. So that's amazing. I think I would take it personally. I probably would cry.
Oh, I understand that. I should probably cry more, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's great. All right, so let's talk about this idea of how you do that. How do you, as a CEO, building your team, because it's growing, right? How do you make someone feel valued? Do you have some tips and tricks for other franchisors or leaders of taking others into consideration and bringing the best out of them?
Yeah, so I know it's easier said than done. Right now I'm still running a fairly small franchise business, if you will, compared to, other franchises out there who have hundreds of thousands of employees. But I would say if you can take the time to get to know your people. And when I say that, I don't mean, from a working standpoint, like how fast they can type and respond to an email. What do they like to do for fun? What are their hobbies? How can you show them that you care about them as a person, which in my opinion, is leaps and bounds over just a standard thank you appreciation email. And so, I mean, that's really where I would leave it is it's get to know your people, spend as much face time as you can. For us, you know, a lot of us work remote. So we do quarterly strategy meetings where we meet and we grind for 8 hours a day. But then afterwards, we celebrate. We celebrate our successes, whether that's going bowling or going out for dinner, or going to play Topgolf, or, you know, getting a massage, what have you. It's just about that quality time with each other and letting them know, like, hey, we're going to work hard, but then we're going to play hard. We're going to celebrate, and we're going to become more of a family versus acquaintances who help each other on a day-to-day basis, you know, continue to grow the brand.
That's amazing. That just resonated with me so well because I'm currently working with a client who consistently, like we did a culture evaluation across the board, right? Just company wide. And everyone agreed that, not that they agreed, like individually, they mentioned that they weren't getting the salary they desired. However, every single person told me that they feel like someone cares about them there. Mm-hmm. Every single person had somebody who was a mentor. Every single person got positive feedback. So I think you're right about that. Like treating people well, letting them know that you care about them can outweigh everything at the end of the day.
No, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, I think money is a feedback that lets you know you're appreciated, but there is other ways of feeling that appreciation. Like you said, being a part of a team, a family, having some fun, people personally getting to know you. It's kind of like a love language almost, right?
Yeah.
When you think about it, of how does someone feel valued and appreciated might be different from one person versus another person. And you only know that by getting to know them, right? And,
right. Yeah.
And that's what you are doing. So is there a fear that you have that you are confronting or have confronted or in any way has inspired you to go further? Any kind of fear or doubt or like, oh,
I would say, I guess as far as fear and doubt, you know, the only thing that really resonates right now is my childhood. You know, just overcoming some of the obstacles and challenges that I went through at that point in my life, and not being able to change the outcome. You know, as a child and a young little girl, you can't really control much when it comes to involvement from adults, right? And so, you know, having went through that, there are a lot of additional things you go through, you know, as a young adult and as a woman, that you kind of have to take a step back and realize, like, the hand that I'm dealt, I can't control, but I can pivot it and make it positive moving forward. And so I think it's just a matter of like being told no, or, you know, the experiences that I went through that have made me who I am today, which is somebody who doesn't take no lightly, and wants to continue to grow. You know, whether that is as a person, or whether that's professionally, or whether that's, you know, in my relationships that I have. And so going back to, you know, deciding to open this franchise concept myself, it was just kind of next on my list. You know, I'm like, okay, well, this is another challenge. I weighed out the pros and the cons. There were a lot of cons for me personally, just with everything else that I have on my plate. But when I sat down and I, you know, consulted my husband about it, and he was like, well, if you think you can make the time and you think you can do it, I support you. And I was like, well, you make time for what you want, right? So kind of back to head down, future forward, you know, just always taking my personal experiences and figuring out how to apply them in future, whether that's helping myself or helping somebody else, just continue to evolve as a person, or overcome a challenge that they may be experiencing.
Continue evolving, grow as a person, kind of be the person that others can look to as the example.
Yes.
Model.
Yeah. It's that thought of, as children, we don't have control. We don't have a vote, right? And when things happen to us, oftentimes we go one of two directions. One is, I'm a victim, I never have choice, things never work out, blah, blah, blah. Or I'm going to take control of my destiny, I'm going to be a victor. And that's the route you chose. It's what can I control? What can I direct? And you've gone that direction rather than, I'm at the mercy of whatever winds are blowing. You're not that person. You're the other person. You're the victor. And I think that's a powerful message. I don't know if I told you, Tatum, but I also had no mom, and didn't meet my mom until I was 18. So I understand that there's a little piece always kind of missing, right? And fortunately, you had a beautiful stepmother that stepped into that. So before we kind of wrap up, ladies, I want to make sure that folks know how to learn about the Covery and learn more about you. How would they get hold of you, and how would they do that?
Yeah, so first off, I would say our website is thecovery.com. So you can go on there, tons of information about our therapies, our business model, our memberships, etc. And then to reach out to me directly, if anytime, no matter what it is. My email is Tatum at thecovery.com. So TATUM at thecovery.com. But that's probably the best way to reach me.
Excellent. I really appreciate you carving out time. I learned a lot. I actually was taking notes. Going, ooh, that raised the hair on my arm. So Tracy, I'm going to turn it over to you, hon. Give us a wrap up of this. What was most impressive to you about Tatum and just a little bit of time that we've spent with her?
Tatum and Rebecca, the most impressive thing that stood out to me about you, Tatum, is that you became the role model that you wanted to have in your life. And it just sets the example for so many people who are either listening to this. It's funny because I had the opposite. I had a mom who raised me, and my dad, was kind of, I saw him and had a relationship, but he was kind of like playing the field, and I got all the emotional side, but I didn't get that firm, I believe in you side, that like that practicality that a dad, would set. So I spent my whole life like taming down that emotional part and building up that practical, like, analytical maybe side, or I don't want to label it. But I have to tell you that I have seen what Rebecca mentioned, a lot of people using, oh, this happened to me, that happened to me, as an excuse. And you actually use your childhood and, your mom, biological mom, not being there as a no excuses situation. And I have the chills right now. I really appreciate that about you. And I think our listeners will absolutely appreciate that about you. So thank you.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate you listening and getting to know you both today. It's been an incredible podcast, so I really appreciate it.
So my last question to you, Miss Tatum, is what's the title of this book you're going to be writing? Have you figured that one out?
You're going to ask me something I don't know. No, I don't. Yes, Tracy.
Never could. Oh, can't, never could.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah. Or no excuses, or something to do with work for what you want rather than what you're doing, or it'll be interesting. So let us know when it comes out.
I will. I'll send you guys a copy first.
It sounds like you have a general idea of what the book is going to entail. The last part is always sort of the title. So I'm excited for you. And I'm excited for the Covery. I think you guys are onto something here with this beautiful balance of the mental as well as the physical. I can tell you that when there is that kind of stress, what it does to the body, and vice versa, when there's physical things, what that does mentally and emotionally. So, yeah, we're impressed with your mission. So, best of luck to you. And again, thank you. And thank you to our listeners today to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. Make sure to share this interview with Tatum Crews. Lots of inspiring things. And of course, hit the subscribe button. And we'll see you next week on another episode.